The billionaire's fiancée pushed the maid into the pool, but what her little toddler did next made her regret it immediately. Nobody could have predicted what this small girl would do. She was just 3 years old, barely reaching the table, dressed in a tiny frock with a little rip at the bottom. When a most influential woman at the gathering pointed a finger at her mother, humiliated her publicly in front of all the guests, and shoved her straight into the pool while the crowd of rich people watched and laughed, this baby girl turned around, looked straight up, and spoke 7 words that made the whole garden fall completely silent. And the billionaire, the man who already had everything in life, broke down crying right there in front of all his guests. I still can't believe this actually took place. Welcome back, everyone. If this is your first time here, I'm truly glad you came across this channel. We share real human stories here, stories that touch your soul deeply and remind you of what really counts in life. Before we dive into today's story, leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Which state or which country? I really enjoy knowing who's part of this community with me. Now, today's story involves a billionaire, his heartless fiancée, a quiet and hardworking maid, and a 3-year-old little girl who had no idea she was about to transform 4 lives forever. This story carries a twist that I guarantee you won't see coming. Stay with me till the end. Every single moment of this story is important. She was the unseen woman living inside a mansion filled with luxury, but lacking any kindness. Her name was Rosa. She was 31 years old, a single mother, originally from a small rural town in Texas. She had soft, kind eyes, dark hair that she always tied back neatly, and hands that were constantly busy cleaning, carrying, and working. Rosa had worked as a live-in maid at the Hargrove estate for nearly 2 years. In that time, she had learned one crucial rule: remain invisible. The Hargrove estate spread across 12 acres just outside Nashville, Tennessee. It was the type of property you only see in glossy magazines, grand white columns at the entrance, a beautiful fountain in the circular driveway, an enormous swimming pool in the backyard, perfectly manicured hedges, and luxurious Italian marble floors inside. The kitchen was a chef's dream, which Rosa cleaned every single morning before anyone else woke up. The owner of this grand estate was Ethan Hargrove, 33 years old, a self-made billionaire. He had started his tech company in a college dorm room in Georgia and had reached the cover of Forbes by the time he turned 30. He was tall, quietly good-looking, and had a habit of rubbing the back of his neck whenever he was thinking deeply. He wasn't a mean person, but he was always extremely occupied, constantly on calls or traveling. He would pass Rosa in the hallways and greet her with a sincere nod. He was decent, yet decency wasn't the word people used when describing his fiancée. Her name was Vivian, 29 years old, blonde, and beautiful in that polished way that comes from expensive skincare and perfect styling. She had grown up in a wealthy family in Connecticut, attended elite schools, and could flash a charming smile that worked wonders, until the attention shifted away. She and Ethan had been engaged for 8 months. Their upcoming spring wedding was already being featured in bridal magazines. Vivian had never liked Rosa. She made that obvious from the very first week she moved into the estate. She never said it directly, but her behavior revealed it through constant small acts of cruelty. She spoke to Rosa not like a human being, but like an object. "You missed a spot," she would say without even looking up. "Do this again. Why isn't this finished yet?" Even when the task had just been given. Rosa accepted it all quietly because she had no other option. She had a daughter to raise. Her daughter's name was Lily. She was 3 years old, with beautiful curly brown hair and large dark eyes that seemed to observe everything around her. Lily lived with Rosa in a small room toward the back of the house. Rosa had tried her best to make it warm and comforting with a second-hand quilt and a string of paper stars she had cut out herself. But Vivian had made one thing very clear. The child was not allowed in the main areas of the house. "I don't want a child running around and breaking things," she had told Ethan, and he had agreed. So Lily spent her days either in that small back room or in the tiny garden patch near the staff entrance, playing quietly with her few toys, a stuffed elephant, plastic stacking rings, and a picture book about animals that she had memorized, so, well, she could recite every word even though she couldn't read yet. Every morning before the household woke up, Rosa would kiss Lily's forehead and whisper, "Mama is right here." I'm always right here. And every evening, after finishing all her work, she would sit on the floor, hold Lily close, and read that animal book again, no matter how tired her feet were or how raw her hands felt. 2 months before everything changed, Ethan's assistant informed Rosa that the estate would be hosting a big outdoor garden party for his 33rd birthday. Around 80 guests were expected: business partners, investors, old friends, and family. Catering would be hired, but Rosa would still need to supervise the household staff and help throughout the evening. It would be the largest event she had handled since starting at the estate. Rosa felt a deep sense of unease, especially because Vivian had been more tense, demanding, and sharp-tempered than usual, while Ethan was away traveling for 3 weeks. The evening of the birthday party arrived warm and beautiful, the late July sky in Tennessee turning a rich golden amber as fireflies began to appear. The estate looked magical, string lights hanging between the trees, long tables covered in white linen, the pool glowing a soft blue in the center, surrounded by expensive candles and flower arrangements. Guests started arriving from 5 o'clock onward. Expensive cars filled the driveway. Women wore elegant dresses. Men arrived in smart blazers. Laughter and the sound of clinking glasses filled the warm air as a small jazz band played near the fountain. Rosa moved through everything quietly and efficiently, directing junior staff, ensuring appetizer trays stayed full, and quietly solving small issues before they became noticeable. She had asked the neighbor's teenage daughter, Maya, to stay with Lily in the back room with snacks and a movie. Lily had kissed her mother's cheek and said, "Pretty mama," touching Rosa's simple black uniform. Rosa had smiled warmly and replied, "Thank you, my love." Ethan arrived around 6:15 straight from the airport. He greeted guests with natural confidence. At one point, he caught Rosa's eye across the garden and gave her a grateful nod. Vivian looked stunning that evening in her silver dress, laughing at all the right moments and playing the perfect hostess. To the guests, they seemed like the ideal couple. But Rosa noticed the tension, the way Vivian's jaw tightened when Ethan spoke too long with an old female friend, the extra glasses of champagne she drank quickly, and the restless look in her eyes. Around 7:30, a problem arose in the kitchen when a tray of desserts was knocked over and the replacements couldn't be found. Rosa rushed to fix it. In the middle of the chaos, she lost track of time and forgot to check on Lily. When she finally stepped out at 8 o'clock, Maya was waiting nervously near the staff entrance. "Ms. Rosa," she said, "Lily wanted to find you. I tried to keep her inside, but she slipped out. I'm so sorry." Rosa's heart sank. She hurried through the gardens searching for her daughter, her eyes constantly checking the dangerous pool area. She finally found Lily standing near the pool terrace, clutching her stuffed elephant and staring at the glowing lights in the water. Rosa quickly picked her up. "Lily, baby, come with Mama." That was the exact moment Vivian saw them. Vivian was standing nearby with 2 of her friends. Her expression changed instantly. She walked over with a cold smile and began speaking sharply to Rosa. Her voice grew louder as she scolded her for breaking the rule about Lily. Then, without warning, Vivian reached out and pushed Rosa hard on the shoulder. Rosa lost her balance and fell backward into the pool with a loud splash. The music stopped. Conversations died. Every head turned toward the pool. Rosa came up gasping for air, soaked and shocked, immediately looking for her daughter. Lily had not fallen in with her. She had landed on the pool deck, sitting there with her scraped knee, wide eyes full of confusion. When she saw her mother surface, she stayed dry but clearly shaken. The entire garden was now silent. 80 guests, staff members, and the band, everyone was watching. Vivian stood at the edge holding her champagne glass, trying to maintain her composure. But then Lily stood up. The tiny 3-year-old, still holding her stuffed elephant tightly, walked straight toward Vivian with serious determination. The crowd parted slightly as she approached. She stopped right in front of Vivian, looked up at her, and said in the clearest, purest voice that carried across the silent garden, "You hurt my mama." The words landed heavily. Nobody moved. Vivian's face lost its color. Then, from somewhere behind the crowd, came the sound of a man quietly breaking down in tears. It was Ethan. He had witnessed the entire scene, the push, the fall, and his fiancée being confronted by a 3-year-old holding a stuffed elephant. He walked forward slowly, first crouching down to speak gently with Lily. The little girl offered him her elephant for comfort. Ethan touched it softly, his eyes wet. He then stood up and looked at Vivian. "We need to talk," he said in a quiet but final tone. Later that night, after the guests had been politely sent home, Ethan spoke with Rosa. She told him the full truth about how Vivian had been treating her and the other staff for months. The next morning, Vivian was gone. The engagement was officially over. A few days later, Ethan called Rosa into his office and handed her an envelope. Inside were documents revealing that Lily was the heir to a substantial inheritance from a relative on her late father's side, over $1.2 million. Rosa sat in shock and then cried tears of overwhelming relief and emotion. In the following weeks, life began to change for the better. Rosa eventually moved into a nice little apartment with Lily, started taking online courses, and began building a brighter future. Ethan made changes in his company to treat employees with more respect and dignity. He even visited them one afternoon, bringing Lily a new picture book. The little girl made him sit beside her while she showed him every animal with complete seriousness. Lily never fully understood the power of what she had done that night. She was only 3. She had simply seen her mother get hurt and spoke the honest truth. In a garden full of powerful adults who chose silence, a small child reminded everyone that sometimes the bravest thing is simply telling the truth. Honesty, especially pure, childlike honesty, turned out to be the most powerful force that evening. If this story moved you, please like it, subscribe for more real emotional stories, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. What would you have done in that moment? Let me know in the comments.